Even in the most punishing, sub-zero climates on Earth, you will find birds pushing through the storm. They are resilient conquerors of environments that would quickly freeze other animals solid. Yet you can take that same overarching avian biology and drop it into a scorching, arid desert, and the animal still thrives. They push the boundaries of extreme temperature tolerance in both directions. But this creates a biological paradox. Birds are homeotherms, warm-blooded animals that must maintain a constant internal temperature. To keep their cells functioning, a bird has to keep its internal core locked at a blistering 41 degrees Celsius, or 106 degrees Fahrenheit. So how does an animal with a high-revving internal furnace manage to stand barefoot on solid ice without freezing, and then survive a desert heat wave without boiling from the inside out? The challenge is magnified by what birds don't have. To regulate temperature, mammals rely heavily on sweat glands to cool down and thick layers of subcutaneous fat, or blubber, to stay warm. Birds completely lack sweat glands, and they mostly lack that insulating fat layer. Smaller birds are also fighting basic physics. Their diminutive size gives them a high surface area to volume ratio. This is a mathematical reality, meaning they have a massive amount of exposed skin relative to their tiny internal mass, causing them to constantly bleed core warmth into the surrounding air. Because they lack standard mammalian thermal defenses, their survival relies entirely on a series of specialized anatomical hacks. Let's start with the deep freeze and how birds proactively generate and conserve heat when the temperature drops. Their primary passive defense is plumage. By fluffing out their feathers, birds increase the distance between their skin and the cold environment, trapping a thick, stagnant layer of air. This effectively impairs convective heat loss. When passive insulation isn't enough, they actively generate warmth through shivering thermogenesis. This involves rapidly contracting their highly developed pectoralis breast muscles and leg muscles to produce intense internal heat and heat. But a heavy coat only covers the body. If a bird stands directly on a frozen pond, the heat generated by those muscles should immediately drain out through its bare, unfeathered feet. This diagram illustrates a countercurrent heat exchange system. It is the vascular engineering solution that allows birds to walk on ice. As warm arterial blood travels from the heart down the leg, it runs directly parallel to the cold venous blood returning from the foot. Because the vessels are pressed together, the descending artery transfers its heat laterally across the vessel walls into the ascending vein. The blood finally reaching the toes has already been pre-cooled to near 0 degrees Celsius, meaning almost no heat is lost to the ice. Meanwhile, the blood heading back up into the bird is pre-warmed, shielding the core from the shock of cold blood. If environmental temperatures plunge too low and food is too scarce to fuel this system, some species use an extreme fallback called torpor. They intentionally enter a dormant state, dropping their body temperature below 10 degrees Celsius and slowing their breathing to a crawl to conserve energy. Through this circulatory loop, they strategically sacrifice the warmth in their extremities to ensure their brain and heart stay at a perfectly regulated 41 degrees. In a scorching desert, keeping the core regulated requires the exact opposite strategy. The bird has to rapidly dump excess heat. This chart shows active heat dissipation. Lacking sweat glands, birds rely on respiratory evaporation through shallow panting, preventing dangerous respiratory alkalosis. They also use gular flutter, vibrating throat tissues to increase cooling. This pulls an immense 580 kilocalories of heat out per liter of evaporated water. By turning their throats into highly efficient internal fans, they can continuously cool down without disrupting their internal blood chemistry. They also use their anatomy in reverse. By opening up the blood vessels in their unfeathered legs and bills, these bare areas become highly vascularized radiators, safely dumping core heat into the air through simple radiation and convection. When the environment gets too hot for evaporation, they break their own temperature rules. Some birds use facultative hyperthermia, allowing their internal body temperature to intentionally rise during the day to match the surrounding air, which drastically reduces the need to use precious water for cooling. They might also physically soak their bellies in standing water to shed heat. They utilize every available inch of their anatomy, either trapping air, exchanging fluid heat, or vibrating tissues to manage a precise thermal equation. From built-in throat fans to countercurrent ankle heaters, maintaining a 41-degree core is a high-stakes physiological balancing act, won entirely through precise evolutionary engineering.